see you again?
You couldn't make it a little louder, could you? I know that ladies and the men have different hearing levels. Cute. Good. Don't get sucked in.
So please help me welcome Mark Hardcastle.
That's the best introduction I've ever seen.
That's
Right.
really
Wow.
The
The best you've ever seen. I don't believe that
That's
for a
the
second.
best, that's the best.
Well, does anybody recognize this? Tell me if you recognize this. What is it?
It's like a
A baton?
baton.
Yeah, conductor's baton. And not much to it, really, just this little wooden handle here and this white plastic tip. But for something so basic, it's powerful. In the right hands, this little baton can inspire violins, brass, percussion to create meaningful symphonies. And the good news is, you have one. Today, you are conducting the symphony of your life. But the bad news is, from time to time, our symphonies go out of tune. Like a fifth grade band concert.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes, how do we restore harmony when our worlds go out of tune? How do we respond when fortune challenges us and those around us with difficult times? There's an opportunity for leadership there and mentorship. Let me take you back to a moment when my world was out of tune. May 18th, 2012, I was over in Moab, Utah with a bunch of my friends who go there every year to ride mountain bikes. And that morning, we all came out of the condo wearing our spandex bike shorts.
Oh.
Yes, you have an image. You're welcome. We were also wearing our form-fitting, muscle-exposing bike shirts, our incredibly expensive wraparound sunglasses, our multicolored bike helmets, looking good, ready to ride. So we made our way up to the trailhead for the Porcupine Rim Trail. Now keep in mind, the guys I was riding with were also pretty hardcore riders. Me, not so much. So I volunteered to let them take off down the hill towards the Castle Valley overlook ahead of me, while I held down the rear guard. Now, about 45 minutes into this ride, the trail crosses a paved road. So about that time, I looked off in the distance, and sure enough, there they all were, popping up on the pavement, back down into the dirt. And eventually, I made my way down there towards that paved road, skipped up on the asphalt, back down into the dirt on the other side. And that's when I saw this half-buried log across the trail. These willows over here, these rocks over here. And I remember thinking, I'm either going to have to jump that or find a way around it. And that is the last thing I remember from the ride. And the next thing I remember is waking up, recognizing that I was still on the trail, but I wasn't on my bike anymore, and I wasn't moving. In fact, I couldn't move my right arm. I was paralyzed. My world was out of tune. We'll talk some more about that here in just a minute, but first I'd like to take a moment and say thanks. First to Linda. Folks, I get a lot of these talks, and I work with a lot of meeting planners. And I just got to tell you, nobody does it better than Linda Ray. So let's let Linda know how much we appreciate her.
We wouldn't have such great speakers if it weren't for Linda.
No doubt about it. And to you for coming today. Thanks for being here. Woody Allen tells us that 80% success in life is what?
Showing up.
Showing up, you bet. And by virtue of the fact that you're here today at Mile High Sales Pros, creating community, supporting each other's businesses, tells me that you're the kind of folks who show up, the kind of folks I like to hang out with. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that today. As we talk about leadership to legacy, and using your accumulated wisdom to change the world through the next generation. Now today we're going to use United Airlines pilots as sort of a case study. Now I have to ask for an indulgence here. I've got a little problem. I work for United Airlines, but I'm not here representing United in any way, shape, or form today. I'm just me. I'm not speaking for United.
Right.
I've seen some things on the inside of United as an employee there that I'd like to bring out today, and I think we can draw some conclusions from. So are we okay with that understanding?
Yeah.
I'd get in big trouble if they thought I was speaking for them today. So why United? And why the pilots? Well, if you think back to the bankruptcy era in the airline industry, from about 2002 to about 2012, United Airlines was not known for their great customer service.
That's to put it mildly.
Nobody's gonna, Linda, you're not gonna argue with me about that,
I
are
did
you?
anything I could to avoid it.
Yeah. But then in 2010, United and Continental merged. And some of our really good thinkers up in the human resources department, I mean that in all sincerity, some folks who really did some good thinking, saw this as an opportunity to take these two very disparate cultures, bring them together, and take the best from both, and use that to sort of create a new culture from scratch, intentionally, for this new company. Now, some pilots had some opportunity to take part in those conversations. And they imagined a time when United would become profitable again, and when we would start to grow and start to hire pilots back onto the property. And that time came, and they created a program that we still use today. So our new hires started coming on board, and they all came right out here to the old Stapleton Airport, to our training center. They go into 2 weeks of orientation. And at the end of orientation, there's a great ceremony, and they get their golden wings. Now, just before they get those wings, they get to meet with one of those captain representatives that I was telling you about a minute ago, a fellow by the name of Mark Hogue, Captain Hogue. Now, Captain Hogue invites each one of these new hires to stand up and share with the room what he or she brings to United Airlines that nobody else can bring. It's going to make us a great company again. And then he asks them to distill that down to one word, which he calls their legacy word. And he challenges them to take that word with them on every flight for the next 30, 35, or 40 years. And remember, keep it in the forefront of their minds, and remember how they have the opportunity to make United Airlines better every single day. Pretty cool idea, huh? Well, then these folks fly with us for a while, and then they get to become captains. And every crop of new captains goes up to Chicago, to world headquarters, for 5 days of captain development training. And again, they get to meet with Captain Hogue. And he challenges them again, this time a little differently. He says, why should I give you that fourth stripe, Captain? And by the way, did you know that that's what that means? 4 stripes on a sleeve is always a captain. 3 stripes is always a first officer. 2 stripes is always a flight attendant.
Okay.
Cool little piece of trivia. Might get you a cup of coffee next time you're in the terminal. So how are you gonna use that 4th stripe, Captain? What are you gonna do with that new authority to make sure that your customers have a great experience, want to come back to us again and again and again? For that matter, Captain, what do you bring to life? No one else can bring. It's going to make this world a better place. What's your word, Captain? Yeah, those two things are happening today at United Airlines. So I'd like to piggyback on that a little bit and sort of parallel that idea and ask you to imagine creating your best world. So as you imagine this world, the best world you can imagine, what do you see? And are we there yet?
No.
Probably not. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation in the first place, would we? And if you pay any attention to social media, you'd probably come to the conclusion we got a long way to go. My suggestion would be just drop social media altogether. Despite what Linda was saying, all this great effort you've made today about building up our social media presence. It begs a question though, doesn't it? What can we do to advance our communities towards that best world that we're imagining? What can you as an individual do to write across the history of Mile High Sales Pros? Or that business that you're building, that you want to last for generations? Or your kids, your grandkids, your nieces, your nephews, your friends, your neighbors? What can you write across these histories in indelible ink that will become part of your legacy? What's your word? And as you are thinking about that, think about these people in this community that we just talked about. Are you encouraging them to imagine their best word? Or their best world? And what their word would be as they create that best world? Well, as you talk to them about that, what you're really asking them is what do they bring to the fight? Because in many ways, it really is a fight. Plato told us over 2,000 years ago to be kind, for everyone we meet is fighting a hard battle. I mean, just think about all the changes that you've seen just in the last decade, let alone your entire life. I mean, how we pay for things. We used to pay for things with coins, dollar bills, write a check. Now, everybody pays for everything with credit cards or the internet. Well, speaking of the internet, imagine how we communicate with each other now. When we grew up, phones were attached to the wall. Now we've got these magical, cell phones we can do all kinds of things with. My son lives in Adelaide. I can talk to him face to face over the internet, free of charge these days.
Yeah.
Change brings challenge. Challenges are inevitable. But challenges themselves are not necessarily a bad thing. Viktor Frankl, you ever heard of Viktor Frankl? Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of you, I see some heads nod. Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor. Now there's somebody whose world without a tune, wouldn't you say? Frankl wrote in 1946 that life is not so much a quest for pleasure or power as it is a search for meaning. And he went on to say that we can find or create meaningful lives through these challenges that we know are inevitable. Now here's a challenge for you. Anybody here work with millennials?
No. You have a few in your office, don't you?
No, he says.
One besides me.
Yeah, two. Well, here's something that you may be familiar with. This just came on my radar just a couple of days ago. My friend Tricia Hall's the CEO of the Big Idea Project. She let me know that 60% of businesses in America are facing a leadership talent challenge. She also says that the average age at which an upcoming executive receives leadership training is 37 years of age. Now, here's the kicker. The largest demographic in our workforce now is the millennials. And we sort of mark the beginning of the millennial generation. I need another cup of coffee. My lips aren't working right today. The millennial generation in 1982, they were 18 when the millennial turned. The year 2000. They were graduating from high school, entering the workforce. That's how they came to be known as millennials. Well, if you do the math today, that puts them at about 36, the oldest ones. And if 37 is the average age when they get the first leadership training, this entire generation hasn't had any leadership training yet, on average. Now, how's that for an opportunity? Can you make a difference with that? Absolutely. So, here's an idea. What if you could take your accumulated wisdom, the wisdom of your lifetime, and distill it down to one golden nugget? And then you could find 5 minutes with these millennials that you work with, when they're not looking at their phone, and you could convey that accumulated wisdom to them. What would you say? Wouldn't it be cool if you could help them prevent the consequences of all of their challenges? Now, just so you know, the millennials were just hitting their stride when the Great Recession hit. Just getting really their businesses and their lives underway. And the next thing they know, they find themselves unemployed. And many of them responded badly. We can talk about that after the presentation if you'd like. But wouldn't it be cool if you could help them overcome those challenges, or maybe even prevent those challenges from manifesting in the first place? How about if you could prevent their world from ever going out of tune to begin with? Restoring harmony in advance? Isn't that what mentorship is all about? Well, if that's what mentors do, what else do mentors do? Well, at the beginning of the day, mentors are teachers. Sure, you got to teach your employees how to program the 3D printer, right? But that really is just a task. It's a technical aspect of just doing the job. But it doesn't really have anything to do with vision. Mentors help their aspiring leaders with their vision. Mentors provide flashes of inspiration and understanding about what's important as they create their businesses and their worlds. Let's do something. Let's pretend we're in a band. I'm the band leader. You're my drum section. All right, so I'm going to ask you to strike your drum. You have it right in front of you. And I want you to do it when I show you with the intensity that I indicate with my baton. All right, those are the rules. Everybody ready? Here we go. And, oh, just once.
Oh,
once,
just once.
when I show you, but this was more than you just gave me. So I want you to do it with the intensity that I show. Ready? And that's what I'm after. Now let's contrast it with this. And you can give me a little more now. I want to at least hear it. Just, yeah, good. So let's do a series of those and pay attention. I'm going to change the sequence right in the middle. All right? So with me? Ready? Here we go. And here's the change. Good job. Well done. Just that fast, you became a band. Give yourselves a hand. So what did we do then? Any musicians here, did you recognize what I did?
You went from 3/4 time to 3/3 time? or
4/4 time to 3/4 time. Yeah, that's changing the time signature. That's the musical terminology. Now, for those of you who were at the Stampede the other night, I'll translate. You went from a two-step to a waltz.
Yeah.
But the question is, how did I do that? Did I change the speed at which we were playing? No, that's the tempo. Did I change the value of the notes I was asking you to play? No, they were all the same value. The only thing I changed was where I asked you to place the accent. Changed the entire character of the music we were playing together. Several years ago, I had a chance to work as a guest conductor at a local high school band. Now, my job at the band was to take a section of instruments, now by section I mean all the clarinets or all the trumpets, take them across the hall to a separate rehearsal space and help them work through a passage of music that they may be struggling with. Well, the time came for me to take the drummers across the hall, and you may figure from what we just did that I'm nobody's drummer, and you'd be right. But I know one. Another pilot friend of mine by the name of Steve Fredericks is also a rock and roll drummer. So I called him up, hey Freddie, can you come help me teach these kids how to play the drums? And he said, yeah, sure, I'll be there. So the day came, Steve showed up, we went across the hall with the drummers. He laid out the sheet music on the table and asked them to play a passage just so he could get a feel for where they were. And it sounded something like this. Technically correct, tactically perfect, but boring. Nothing musical about it. So he had them gather around the music and started pointing. I said, look here at these marks right here. We call these accent marks. The composer's trying to tell you what, let me just show you. Pulled out his sticks, played the same passage, and it sounded like this. Massively different. Eyes went wide, light bulbs went on, and just that fast, they understood how to be musical, what was important, by the fact that their mentor had shown them where to place the accents. Are you showing your community where to place the accents? Mentors teach. Something else mentors do. Mentors show us just how good we can be. Now, 7 years ago, when I was a junior at the Air Force Academy,
What? 7 years ago?
What? Okay, all right, you got 17 years ago when I was a
I
junior.
like it.
Still not buying it. 37 years ago.
Oh, okay.
37 years ago, I was a junior at the Air Force. How is that even possible? It's just like yesterday. Well, I had a chance to go to the Army's parachute training jump school down in Fort Benning, Georgia. Now, jump school is a 3-week course. The first 2 weeks, now my lips over. First 2 weeks of ground school. That's when we learn all the skills, technical skills we need to jump out of perfectly good airplanes. Then week 3, we actually do go out and jump out of perfectly good airplanes. Now, jump school's in Fort Benning. Fort Benning is in South Georgia. And if I told you that I was in South Georgia in August, you would tell me it was hot and muggy, humid, hard to breathe. Well, here's something you probably understand about parachuting. You probably understand that when you have a parachute, you come down slower than if you don't. That's kind of the point, right? Something you may not understand about parachuting is that even when you have a parachute, you can still hit the ground pretty hard.
Yeah.
And if you're not in really good physical condition, you can be injured. So one of the things jump masters work really hard on during those first 2 weeks is making sure everybody is in the best possible physical condition before we go out on week 3 and jump out of those airplanes. So I did a lot of push-ups and sit-ups under that Georgia sun. Last day of ground school, Friday morning, week 2. The jump masters showed up at the training ground with a lesson for us that was going to be cloaked in physical conditioning, but really had nothing to do with those technical skills. They wanted to show us just how far we could go. So they ordered us to fall in, airborne, which means line up in 3 columns, platoon formation, stand at attention, and wait for instructions. And then we heard, all right, airborne, now we're going to go for a 1-mile condition and run, forward, hunch. Double time, hunch. And we were off and running. And let's just say the jump masters established a brisk pace. Then they got faster. Then they got faster again. So by the time we got to the end of course, we were at an absolute lung-searing, heart-pounding sprint. Really glad to see that finish line coming up. But that's when the other shoe dropped. Great job, airborne. Now we're going to go for another mile. Oh, a bunch of the guys dropped out of the formation and rest. They just knew they couldn't go another mile. Not at that pace. Most of us managed to keep running. But we only had to go another 40 or 50 yards till the jump masters called us to a halt. Quick time, march, tune, halt, fall out. Ah, now we could catch our breath. And as we were gasping and wheezing, the lead jump master came around to the front of the platoon to deliver the lesson of the day. All right, everyone, now you understand that if you believe you can keep going as long as you need to, you're probably right. And you also understand that if you believe you can't, as he pointed back at our friends who'd given up just a few yards short of the end. You're probably right about that too, airborne, because you see, it's always mind over matter. You can keep going as long as you need to. You just need to know you can. Are you telling your folks they're good enough? They're strong enough that they can keep going as long as they need to find that way over, under, around, or through whatever obstacle they're facing today, whatever hard battle they happen to be fighting? Mentors teach us that we can. And finally, mentors convey experience. Now here's how I put that. Mentors give their people the benefit of the chopper ride without making them crash the mountain bike. Yeah, I woke up on that trail. My nose and mouth coated with the dust of the Utah desert. My folks were all down the hill, so it was up to the next group of riders to come along, find me laying there in the dirt, pulled out their cell phones, called 911, got an emergency response. Paramedics showed up, rolled me up on the backboard, slipped me into the ambulance back down the hill to the Moab emergency room where we took x-rays. And we found out that the reason my arm was paralyzed was because my neck was broken. And I had a hard battle to fight. Well, Moab's a small town. They got a small emergency room. They can take x-rays, but they can't do an MRI. And in order to diagnose a spinal cord injury, you need an MRI. And because I had a broken neck and a paralyzed arm, I thought they better figure that out. So they decided to call up to the big city, Grand Junction, and asked them to send the Flight for Life helicopter down for me, and they did. And you can't see the red dot on that TV screen there, but this is me, obviously, in the gurney. And this guy right here with the white t-shirt and the do-rag there, he's one of the guys on the ride with us. His name is Seth Hardcastle. My 18-year-old son was saying goodbye to me as they took me away in that helicopter with a broken neck. Well, the helicopter lifted off for Grand Junction. And as the chaos of the rescue melted away, I began considering the gravity of my situation. And the question that I couldn't push away was, how much worse is this going to get? Obviously, I knew my neck was broken, my right arm's gone. Was I going to lose my left arm too? What about my legs? Were they going to quit working before I even got to Grand Junction? And then it hit me. Maybe I can become a motivational speaker. I should laugh at my own joke like that. I love that joke. I just tried it yesterday, it worked well. I'm gonna keep that one.
Yeah.
But folks, you know, you've been through the bike crash. Great Recession, your business, your family, I know you have. You've been around the block. What did you learn on your chopper ride? And are you telling the folks behind you? Is there something you need to say to somebody close to you you haven't said yet? Is there something you need to do with your kids or your grandkids you hadn't done yet? And what about that one thing you wanted to write across their lives with indelible ink? Are you writing that today? Well, the helicopter landed up there in Grand Junction. They wheeled me into the MRI machine to do the test, wheeled me back out. Neurosurgeon came over to give me the news. Yeah, Mark, no fooling, your neck's broken in 5 places. That's the bad news. The good news is there's no spinal cord damage. Doc, my arm's paralyzed. Yeah, Mark, the nerves that control your arm are badly bruised back up here at the nerve root. But the bruise is actually outside the spinal column, which means it will likely recover. And sure enough, it was only a matter of hours before I began to regain function in my right hand. At that point, I was given a great gift from the universe. That's not what you're thinking. You're thinking, no fooling, sport, you got to walk away from a broken neck. Am I right? Well, I'm thinking about what the neurosurgeon did. She trussed me up in a cervical collar and said, for the next 90 days, do not take this collar off under any circumstances. Well, that kind of cramped my style for the summer of 2012. The first place, it was not a chick magnet. The second place, there are places I've gone, things I've seen, things I've done that I couldn't go and see and do with a cervical collar around my neck. This watershed event had brought my life to a sudden stop. And I was given the gift of stillness for a change. 90 days to think about how I was going to restore harmony to my world that was so out of tune. So what did I think about? Well, I thought about my mentor, Captain Mark Hogue. Name sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Well, like all the other pilots at United, he took a massive pay cut during the United bankruptcy.
Yep.
And he couldn't make his house payment. He lost his family home to personal bankruptcy and foreclosure. About the same time, he was diagnosed with cancer, not once, but twice. Both times, the surgery was successful. But the second time, it was in his thyroid. And there was a complication. One of the nerves that controls his vocal cords was nicked. He was left without a voice. And something I haven't told you yet about Captain Hogue is that when he's not inspiring our new hires and challenging our new captains, he travels all over the country teaching our high schoolers, middle schoolers, and even our elementary school kids to live lives without limits and create that magnificent world. But now he couldn't talk. Those are heavy burdens. But you'd never know any of that had happened to him unless you knew it had happened. See, my friend Mark is one of the most positive, optimistic, fun to be around people you'd ever want to know. How does that work? Well, even several months after his vocal cords healed up, I asked him about that. And he said, it's simple. Sometimes life kicks you where it hurts. And you can either lay there and moan, or you can get up and move on with what's important. Simple. Not necessarily easy. And because he chose to get up each time, he was eventually able to overcome his financial challenges and to recover from his surgical complications. And you know, I could hear his voice when I was laying there on my couch, watching NCIS reruns through a morphine-induced haze.
Mm-hmm.
How about it, Hardcastle? What you gonna do? You gonna lay there and moan? You gotta get up. All right. I got up, got back to work. 18 months later, my book was finished. The Symphony of Your Life, Restoring Harmony When Your World is Out of Tune. Stories about people just like you, fighting through their hard battles and winning. It was simple, wasn't easy. Mentors convey experience. Conductor's baton. Simple, powerful, and you have one. Today you are conducting the symphony of your life. How do you restore harmony when your world goes out of tune? And how are you helping your community imagine a great world and then respond when fortune challenges them with difficult times? Do you provide flashes of inspiration and understanding? Do you show them that they can keep going as long as they need to get where they want to be? Do you convey the wisdom of your accumulated experience? My gift for you today is a question. What do you bring to life that no one else can bring that's going to make this world a better place? Ladies and gentlemen, mentors, what's your word? It's been a pleasure speaking to you today. Thank you so much for this.
That's great. Yeah.
Wow.
As you know, we have a gift card to the Tattered Cover Bookstore.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Wait, don't worry about those. I'm practicing. I'm sending vocabulary words to the Zonta ladies once a week.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Yay.
Isn't he just
Yeah,
amazing?
it's
Yeah.
lovely.
Wow.
Yeah, see lots of different audiences for you too.
I
Love
think-
it. Let's get going on that.
Yeah.
I want to talk to all of them.
So,
There's so many stories that we could tell about Mark Hardcastle and how he gives and gives and gives and gives and gives and gives. Just like answering the call, and I said, sometimes we only have 2 or 3 people in the room. He said, I don't care, I'll be there. So yesterday, these 2 guys, I was booking for a friend of mine. She needs speakers for the Carbon Valley Chamber of Commerce on a monthly basis, and I had started going through my list, and these 2 guys, who are 2 of the most professional giving people I know, and both of them have spoken here more than once,